Device. Ooh, what a week. What a week, what a week, what a week. I shall return. Hey. It is. Oh, let me up in these spaces. I might need a little. Should have got me some warm to drink. The space stays cool. So that my devices. I'm going to utilize this right here as a device. I think that's going to work pretty good. All right, bear with me as I make sure there is no interruptions during this broadcast. It is Soulful Sundays, and I gotta get my live going over there. Welcome to the SupaTea Podcast Show. 1 second, people. That looks delicious. Let's get some lighting going on here. Here we go. I need some chapstick. Welcome to the SupaTea Podcast Show. Welcome. It is Soulful Sundays. What do we do on Soulful Sundays? Soulful Sundays, we dive into the book that we are in, and we get through it to completion. Let's see. I cannot, at least I don't know how to mirror the video. Welcome to the SupaTea Podcast Show. This is Soulful Sundays, every 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Unless I tell you ahead of time, we are here. We are here at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Sunday for Soulful Sundays. And this is the book that we are currently in, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I'm doing something different today, whereas I have my phone set up exactly where my tablet is. Typically, it's like either above the tablet or it's to the side of the tablet. But right now, it is literally in front of the tablet. So I'm excited about that. That is something that is new. And I'm going to just jump right in. because I got other stuff to do. It's the end of my semester, and yeah, there's other things to do. I have a PowerPoint that needs to be completed, and yeah, there's like a lot of things happening. Good. So, with no further ado, we are going to jump into chapter 4. This book is by Dr. Joe Dispenza. If you don't know who Dr. Joe Dispenza is, you need to Google and find out. He is a neuroscientist, Latino, mixed with some other things. Good brother, okay? He has his postgraduate training and continuing education in neurology, neuroscience, brain function, and chemistry, cellular biology, memory formation, aging, and longevity. Okay? He studied biochemistry right at Rutgers University. Okay? He has a bachelor. I'm not going to Rutgers. Rutgers wants me to come there. I'm going to go to VA. Yeah, so I'm going to go to VA. There's an HBCU down there that's like inviting me. Anyway, yes. Bachelor's of Science with an emphasis in neuroscience. So we're talking about geniuses, people. We're not talking about people that just look into the surface and just have just been doing something for a very long time without the actual foundation. He has been practicing for a very long time as a neuroscientist and as a leader in our, I'm going to just say it, emerging new earth that is here. I said this 3 times. I'm going to say it again here for my audience, because I don't know what your religious or your faith is, but I know in everyone there is always a talk of a time. I'll use Jehovah's Witnesses for example, because that was my first school of thought when it comes to spirituality that I was introduced to as a baby when I first entered into this incarnation. And they always talk about paradise. They showed us these pictures of paradise. You know, they programmed that into our psyche that there was going to be a time where that is a reality. And then I studied different other forms. That's a form of Christianity. I studied other forms of Christianity. I've studied in the Buddhist religion. I've studied in Islam, the Muslim religion, and they all talk about either a heaven or a paradise. And basically what that message is that there is a possibility to have a total different type of experience. And what I realized, right, because we are in that time, and those who know that we are at the baby of golden era. Like that's the season we are in, you know. And it's a very volatile, you know, because it can go either way, but I see it already happening where that euphoria, that possibility of euphoria, that possibility of paradise is emerging. And guess what, people? It's not going to drop out of the sky. It's not like it's going to be like, oh, poof, now everything is good. No. People have to cultivate that within themselves. Are you at peace within yourself? Are you at joy within yourself? Are you happy and healthy within yourself? Is your physical, your mental, your spiritual self happy and healthy? You have to cultivate and embrace and be that in order to even be able to see the possibility of that and accept it as reality, and to be part of the builders and the construction of that. Because what we are in right now that we see crumbling and falling to pieces and things of that sort around us, different systems, and you know, a lot of things coming to our awareness about how people have done things within these different systems, that was constructed. Like it didn't just fall out the sky. These systems, the banking system, the mortgage system, the government system, all of those things have been constructed. They were not accidents. They weren't just happenstance like, oh, we were just humaning. Ba 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 ba. And that just happened. No, that's not how it happened. It was constructed. So for there to be a new way of life, a new possibility to actually have peace on the whole planet where people are not trying to bomb or take or steal or lie or they're not trying to do none of that stuff. We're going to have to make that happen. Humanity is going to have to create that, okay? And that's the time that we're in. We're in the baby creation of these possibilities that was presented, these seeds that were planted in us, of these possibilities of euphoria, of peace on the whole earth, of happiness, of health on the whole planet. These big corporate is going to get the memo that they're going to profit and be even more richer, helping enhance lives instead of damaging and having people be dependent upon them. Because it's not about dependency. It's about interdependence. It's where we all already are connected. So let's connect in the most healthiest ways possible. Whereas it's not taking out of your pockets. It's going to require some innovation. It's going to require some healing. It's going to require some growth. And it's going to require you becoming a better version of yourself. It's going to require our communities becoming better versions of themselves. Our families becoming better versions of themselves. Our nations becoming better versions of themselves. That's the requirement. For better, it starts micro before it becomes macro. Meaning, it starts small individually before it's humongous and covers the world. So, with no further ado, I'm going to jump into today's chapter, which is overcoming time. And if you ever come in and don't stick around in the TikTok world, here at the SupaTea Podcast Show, you can always watch the replays on my YouTube channel, because the replays are up there. And oh my gosh, I know it's being of service now. I'm not gonna get sentimental, but my great grandchildren are gonna be utilizing these things and doing some amazing things with it. But I'm grateful to be here, present, incarnated, to be of service. And this is just one of the ways that I serve. I serve in many ways. So let's get into chapter 4, Overcoming Time. So much has been written about the importance of staying present. I could cite statistics on everything from distracted driving to divorce to support the notion that people have a really hard time staying in the present moment. Let me add to that body of knowledge by expressing this concept in quantum terms. In the present, all potentials exist simultaneously in that field. It's so true. When we stay present, when we are in the moment, we can move beyond space and time. We can make any one of those potentials a reality. When we are mirrored in the past, however, none of those new potentials exist. You've learned that when human beings try to change, we react much like addicts because we become addicted to our familiar chemical states of being. You know that when you have an addiction, it is almost as if your body has a mind of its own. As past events trigger the same chemical response as the original incident, your body thinks it's re-experiencing the same event. Once conditioned to be the subconscious mind, through this process, the body has taken over for the mind. It has become the mind, and therefore can, in a sense, think. I just touched upon how the body becomes the mind by the cycle of thinking and feeling and thinking. But there's another way in which this occurs, based on past memories. Here's how it works. You have an experience which has an emotional charge, then you have a thought about this particular past event. That thought becomes a memory, which then reflectively reproduces the emotion of the experience. If you keep thinking about the memory repeatedly, the thought, the memory, and the emotion merge as one, and you memorize the emotion. Now, living in the past becomes less of a conscious process and more of a subconscious one. Memorizing emotions. Thought, memory, emotion. Thought is memory plus the emotion. It becomes a memorized emotion. The subconscious comprises most physical and mental processes that take place below our conscious awareness. Much of its activity is involved in keeping the body functioning. Scientists refer to this regulatory system as the autonomic nervous system. We don't have to consciously think about breathing, keeping our heart beating, raising and lowering our body temperature, or any of the other millions of processes that help the body maintain order and heal itself. I think that you can see how potentially dangerous it is for us to cede control over our daily emotional responses to our memories and environment, to this automatic system. This subconscious set of routine responses have been variously compared to an autopilot system and to programs running in the background of a computer. What those analogies are trying to convey is the sense that there is something below the surface of our awareness that is in control of how we behave. Here's an example to reinforce these points. Imagine that in your youth, you came home one day and discovered your favorite pet lying dead on the floor. Every sensory impression of that experience would be, as the expression goes, burned into your brain. That experience would scar you. With traumatic experiences like that, it's easy to understand how those emotions can become unconscious, memorized responses to reminders from your environment that you lost a loved one. You know by now that when you think about that experience, you create the same emotions in your body and in your brain as if the event was occurring all over again. All it takes is one stray thought. Did I have that today? Yes, we'll talk about it once I get to the bottom of this page. All it takes is one stray thought or one reaction to some event in the external world to activate that program. And you start feeling the emotion of your past grief. The trigger could be seeing a dog that looks like yours, or visiting a place you once took him as a puppy. Regardless of the sensory input, it activates an emotion. Those emotional triggers can be obvious or subtle, but they all affect you at a subconscious level. And before you can process what has happened, you're back in that emotional chemical state of grief, anger, and sadness. Once that happens, the body runs the mind. You can use your conscious mind to try to get out of the emotional state, but invariably, you feel like you're out of control. Think of Pavlov and his dogs. In 1890s, the young Russian scientist strapped a few dogs to a table, rang a bell, and then fed the canines a hearty meal. Over time, after repeatedly exposing the dogs to the same stimulus, he simply rang the bell and the dogs automatically salivated in anticipation. This is called a conditioned response, and the process occurs automatically. Why? Because the body begins to respond automatically. Think of our autonomic nervous system. The cascade of chemical reactions that is triggered within moments changes the body physiologically, and it happens quite subconsciously with little or no conscious effort. This is one of the reasons why it's so hard to change. The conscious mind may be in the presence, but the subconscious body mind is living in the past. If we begin to expect a predictable future event to occur in reference to a memory of the past, we are just like those canines. One experience of a particular person or thing at a specific time and place from the past automatically or autonomically causes us to respond physiologically. Once we break the emotional addictions rooted in our past, there will no longer be any pull to cause us to return to the same automatic programs of the old self. It begins to make sense that although we think or believe we are living in the present, there's a good possibility that our bodies is in the past. I don't know my daggone body to that go past. get it up to date. Get, come on now. I mean, 2025, 2025, 2025. I'm gonna stop right here and address some things because today was a very emotionally charged day. Now I know that we're still in full moon energy. I don't follow as close. I'm just aware because I feel the shifts and I know the shifts, and I'm about to be TMI with you all right now. But it is what it is. During full moon right now in this season of my life is when I am full moon. I am ovulating. I can feel it very, 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 very vivid in my body, So it's interesting. It's just very interesting, and today was an interesting day. I been thinking about going to congregate with this amazing group of people and, pay respect. And I pressed something. I just want to I'm trying to tap the screen. I'm doing the broadcast and I'm tapping the screen because, just that's what I'm doing. But anyway, nonetheless, and I thought about it, and then I thought about me, and I said, you want to go outside in the cold? What is your purpose of being there? And to be honest, I had to be honest with me. My purpose of being there was. Like, if I gotta tell y'all, I don't think I'm gonna tell y'all what the purpose of me being there was. But what I'm gonna say is that after careful thought, I was just like, you know what? Let me do the things I'm supposed to be doing that I have already committed myself to do. My podcast. Let me do this PowerPoint that needs to be completed. Let me do what I need to do for me. There's going to be plenty of opportunities to congregate with these individuals, and I'm okay. My representative is there. That way, so. Okay, I'm gonna get back in the book, but that wasn't why I got emotional. That was just the forefront of the day and how I thought the trajectory of the day was gonna go. But I did tell myself, like, if I'm going to complete all of my work for school, and then I'm going to get up and I'm going to straighten up, and then I'm going to go and head out. And it didn't happen that way because I got up, did hours of work, caught up with the work I needed to catch up with. But in that PowerPoint, it's not due right now, but it is due this week, and I'm completing it today. Today I'm completing that PowerPoint because I want to leave the time open for the other things I need to do. And so when I got up, I was like, grateful as always to be incarnated, grateful for the opportunity to be of service, and just kind of pondering, okay, I don't even have the time when it starts. And I don't know why I thought it started at 5, but it starts at 1. It started already, and they're probably in the middle of doing what they do. And it's like, okay, I'm still connected. I've always been connected. So I don't have to physically be there to offer my respect. I don't have to physically be there to offer my support. I can offer that from right where I'm at, right here. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm working on the things that, again, I have already committed to do. So after that, I did go onto my social media platform just to see if the time was put up there, right? So I'm like kind of going over like my start of the day, and then I seen something that was posted from a loved one, and it's a loved one that has a special space in my heart, and they will always have a special space in my heart. And I wanted to jump into straight action to be at aid, and, for this loved one. And I got very, very, very emotional because of how I formed a connection with this loved one, and I formed this connection with this loved one since they were a baby, and life has been filled with many storms that they have experienced, I have experienced, and I met this little baby when my son was just a little baby, and me and their mom, we formed a very close bond. But again, wins in lives, and you don't really disconnect from anyone that you love. But I almost feel like I wish I wish there was more contact between me and her, because at one point she did tell me, like, before she transitioned, when she just recently transitioned in September, she did tell me, like, I prayed, girl. She's like, I didn't even believe in God before you, but I prayed, and I got all this stuff started happening once I prayed and surrendered. Like, all of this good stuff started happening. And I was just like, yeah. And I was like, encouraging her to continue her spiritual development. We are spirit, more spirit than we are this flesh. We are more spirit than we are this flesh. And so I was encouraging her to dive deeper, but of course, life and storms of life was blowing her in a whole bunch of different directions. And ultimately, I suppose she did go deeper, because she went straight back to the spirit. And I know she wants me to be of assistance. This I know. This I know. This I know. And so I have assisted. I have assisted remotely the family, her children and her grandchildren, and I'm always a resource. I'm always someone they could call and they could talk to. However, they are adults. They're both parents. And as a parent and as an adult, they have to go and utilize the services that are available to them, and begin to heal and begin to release. So I was very, very emotional, and I had to reach out to a girlfriend of mine and explain to her, like, because I was ready to be like, girl, let's go over there. Let's pop up. Let's pop up. Let's pop up. If I would have came at her like that, she would have popped up with me. I already know she would have popped up with me. If I would have came at her like that, she would have popped up with me. But I did not. I just came from a very honest space and just told her how I was feeling and what was going on. And she was like, girl, there's nothing for you to do. Like, I know you love these people, but there is nothing for you to do. Like, your biggest issue right now is knickknacks. She's like, you don't have no drama. You don't have no conflict. You cannot. No. Pray. Give them the advice. Tell them where they can go and get the help that they need. You are not the supplier of that. You are just the light that's going to guide, be brilliant enough so that they can see why those things are going to be helpful for them. So just be the light you are. And I was like, thank you, sis. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. And we closed our conversation, and then I spoke with a cousin of mine, and then before I knew it, it was time to do my broadcast, and here I am doing my broadcast. But it was very emotional. It was very, very emotional. And it is because for a moment when I thought about how hard it used to be, when I thought about how hard it used to be, ooh, it hit my spirit. It hit my spirit because it was hard for so long. It was really hard for so long, and now it's just like easy, and I'm adjusting to this easy. I'm adjusting to things being easy, and my subconscious has been programmed by me to where it's like, yeah, that's different. This is different now, but it still hit hard, and I was in tears because I just couldn't understand why, But I know why. I know why. I had the challenges I had. It wasn't, because, you did something horrible in another lifetime, which I may have done horrible shit in other lifetimes. Now, it's possible. I ain't saying that ain't. I'm just saying. But because it is such a motivator and such an inspiration to know, oh, you had those challenges, you had that challenge, you got through what? You been through who? You been through how? Because that joy, this joy that I have in my heart, heart and my being and my soul and my every essence that has poured out into every aspect into my life and continuing to pour, like there's order. I'm still like, I don't even know how we got, and there's so much more to get, because there's so much to be ordering. But it's just like, it's order. Like, okay, there's order up in this space. It feels good. This is more clarity, It's like, wow. If I can, a little brown girl, not the little brown girl who was adopted by loving parents, not the little brown girl who was neglected, but somebody scooped up and began to love on her. Not that little brown girl. That never happened. that never happened for me, people. It never happened. I was a mother and a wife for a very long time before any of like receiving that type of healthy love ever entered. I feel like it is just entering my life now in my 40s, just and before I could even recognize it, I had to become it for myself. So I had to start loving myself in healthy ways. I had to stop neglecting myself, because neglect became such a normal thing. At one point in time, it was like, first it was just how I was handled, and then it was how I was handling myself, because I was a mom and I was sacrificing, and I had to break out of that habit, and I had to become a different version of me, where it's like, oh, I pay attention, I love and I honor and I cherish and I adore, and I do the things that's necessary and that are in alignment with adoration and with cherish and with honor. And this is now how I care for me. And I don't just care I like this outside stuff has become this recent too. But I started on the inside. And I started with my mental. And I didn't make an announcement about it, but I was happy to see the world around me also shifting into those spaces. I was like, oh, I'm so happy people are talking about mental health. And I'm so happy that the stigmatization of mental health has been removed. And I'm so happy that there are more counselors and people in those spaces and places that are there of service for people who actually care about people. Because how are you going to help a person heal and you don't care? You got to care. Of course, with boundaries and of course in a healthy professional way, but you got to care about the people that you're being of service to. And they can pick that up vibrationally. So I am ecstatic about the evolution, of mental health. I'm ecstatic about the evolution of spirituality, and I am ecstatic about the evolution of humanity. And with that, I'm going to get back into this book. I love what I do. I really, really, really do. Emotions to moods, to temperaments, to personality traits, conditioning the body to live in the past. Unfortunately, for most of us, because the brain always works by repetition and association, it doesn't take a major trauma to produce the effect of the body becoming the mind. The most minor triggers can produce emotional responses that feel as though they are beyond our control. For instance, you're driving to work and you stop at your usual coffee shop, which is all out of your favorite hazelnut coffee. Disappointed, you grumble to yourself why a major enterprise like this one can't keep in stock such a very popular flavor. At work, you're irritated to see another car in your preferred parking lot. Stepping into the elevator, you are exasperated to discover that someone ahead of you pushed all the buttons. When you finally walk into the office, someone comments, "What's up? You seem kind of down." You tell your story, the person sympathizes, you sum it up. "I'm in a bad mood, I'll get over it." The thing is, you don't. A mood is a chemical state of being, generally short term, that is an expression of a prolonged emotional reaction. Something in your environment, in this case, the failure of your barista to meet your needs, followed by a few other minor annoyances, set off an emotional response. The chemicals of that emotion don't get used up instantly, so their effect lingers for a while. I call that the refractory period, the time after the initial release and until the effect diminishes. The longer the refractory period, obviously, the longer you experience those feelings. When the chemical refractory period of an emotional reaction lasts for hours to days, that's a mood. What happens when that recently triggered mood lingers? You've been in a bit of a funk since that day, and now you look around the room during a staff meeting, and all you think of is that this person's tie is hideous, and the nasally tone of your boss is worse than nails on a chalkboard. At this point, you're not in a mood. You're reflecting a temperament, a tendency towards the habitual expression of an emotion through certain behaviors. A temperament is an emotional reaction with a refractory period that lasts from weeks to months. Eventually, if you keep the refractory period of an emotion going for months and years, that tendency turns into a personality trait. At that point, others will describe you as bitter or resentful or angry or judgmental. Our personality traits, then, are frequently based in our past emotions. Most of the time, personality, how we think, act, and feel, is anchored in the past. So, to change our personalities, we have to change the emotions that we memorize. We have to move out of the past. We can't change when living in the predictable future. There is yet another way that we get stuck and keep ourselves from changing. We may also train the body to be the mind in order to live in a predictable future, based on the memory of the known past, and thus we miss the precious now moment again. As you know, we can condition the body to live in the future. Of course, that can be a means to a change our lives for the better when we make a conscious choice to focus on a desired new experience, as my daughter did when she created her summer job in Italy. As her story demonstrates, if we focus on an intended future event and then plan how we will prepare or behave, there will be a moment that we are so clear and focused on that possible future that the thoughts we are thinking will begin to become the experience itself. Once the thought becomes the experience, to its end product is an emotion. When we begin to experience the emotion of that event ahead of its possible occurrence, the body, as the unconscious mind, begins to respond as though the event is actually unfolding. On the other hand, what happens if we begin to anticipate some unwanted future experience or even obsess about a worst case scenario based on a memory of our past? We are still programming the body to experience a future event before it occurs. Now, the body is no longer in the moment or in the past. It is living in the future, but a future based on some construct of the past. When this occurs, the body does not know the difference between the actual event transpiring in reality and what we are entertaining mentally, because we are priming it to be juiced up for whatever we think might be coming. The body begins to get ready, and in a very real way, the body is in the event. Here's an example of living in the future based on the past. Imagine you've been asked to give a lecture in front of 350 people, but you fear being on stage. Based on memories of previous public speaking disasters from your distant past, whenever you think about the coming talk, you envision yourself standing there stammering and losing your train of thought. Your body begins to respond as if that future event is unfolding now. Your shoulders tense, your heart races, and you perspire heavily as you anticipate that dreaded day. you cause your body to already be living in that stressful reality, caught up in and obsessed with the possibility of failing again. You are so intent on that expected reality that you can't concentrate on anything else. Your mind and body are polarized, moving from the past to the future and back again. As a result, you deny yourself the novelty of a wonderful future outcome. As a more universal example of living in a predictable future, let's say that for many years you wake up to each new day only to slide automatically into the same old set of unconscious actions. The body is so used to anticipating performing your daily behaviors that it goes almost mechanically from one task to the next. There's feeding the dog, brushing your teeth, putting on your clothes, making tea, taking the garbage out, getting the mail. You get the idea. Although you may wake up with the thought to do something different, somehow you find yourself doing those same old things if you were just along for the ride. After you have memorized those types of actions for a decade or two, your body has been trained to continuously look forward to doing those things. In fact, it has been subconsciously programmed to live in the future and thus allow you to go to sleep behind the wheel. We can even say that you're no longer even driving the car. Now your body cannot exist in the present moment. It is primed to control you by running a host of unconscious programs while you sit back and allow it to head towards some humdrum known destiny. Overcoming your nearly automatic habits and no longer anticipating the future requires the ability to live greater than time. More on that to come. Living in the past, which is your future. Here's another example that demonstrates how familiar emotions create a corresponding future. You are invited to a coworker's 4th of July barbecue. Everyone from your department is expected to attend. You don't like the host. I would not be going. He's always number one and he doesn't mind letting everyone know it. Every time he's hosted an event before, you wound up having a miserable time. Excuse me. With this guy pushing every single one of your buttons. As you're driving to his place now, all you can think about is how, at the last party, he interrupted everyone's meal so he could present his wife with a new BMW. You're certain, as you've told your partner the whole week leading to the cookout, that this is going to be one miserable day. And it becomes exactly that. You run a stop sign and get a ticket. One of your coworkers spilled the beer on your pants and shirt. The hamburger that you requested to be done medium well comes to you barely beyond raw, giving your attitude your state of being. Going in, how could you have expected things to turn out any other way? You woke up anticipating that that day was slated to be a horror show, and it turned out exactly how you expected it to be. You alternated between obsessing about an unwanted future, anticipating what would come next, and living in the past, comparing stimuli you were receiving to what you received previously. So you created more of the same. If you start keeping track of your thoughts and write them down, you'll find that most of the time you're either thinking ahead or looking back. Live your desired new future in the precious present. So here's another of those big questions. If you know that by staying present and severing or pruning your connections with the past, you can have access to all the possible outcomes in the quantum field, why would you choose to live in the past and keep creating the same future for yourself? Why wouldn't you do what is already in your power to do to mentally alter the physical makeup of your brain and body so that you can be changed ahead of any actual desired experience? Why wouldn't you opt for living in the future of your choice now ahead of time? Instead of obsessing about some traumatic or stressful event that you fear is in your future based on your experience of the past, obsess about a new, desired experience that you haven't yet embraced emotionally. Allow yourself to live in that potential new future now. To the extent that your body begins to accept or believe that you are experiencing the elevated emotions of that new future outcome in the present moment. You're going to learn how to do this in this book right here. This book right here. Remember, when I said that my daughter needed to live her present life like she already had the experiences of the great summer in Italy, by doing that, she was broadcasting into the quantum field that the event has already physically occurred. The greatest people in the world have demonstrated this. Thousands of so-called ordinary people have done it, and you can as well. You have all the neurological neurons. Where the nerves at? See, I got the nervous system right there. We have all the neurological machinery to transcend time and make this a skill. What some might call miracles, I describe as cases of individuals working towards changing your own state of being, so that your body and mind are no longer merely a record of the past, but become active partners taking steps to a new and better future. Transcending the big three: peak experiences and ordinary altered states of consciousness. So we're about to go deep. At this point, you understand that the main obstacle to breaking the habit of being yourself is thinking and feeling equal to your environment, your body, and time. Obviously, then, learning to think and feel, be greater than the big three, is your first goal as you prepare for the meditation process you will learn in this book. I'd bet that at some point in your life, perhaps even frequently, you've already been able to think greater than your environment, greater than your body, and greater than your time. These moments when you transcend the big three are what people call being in the flow. There are a number of ways to describe what happens when our surroundings, our bodies, and our sense of time's passage disappear and we are lost to the world. In speaking to groups across the globe, I've asked audience members to describe creative moments when they were so consumed by what they were doing or were so relaxed and at ease that they seemed to enter an altered state of consciousness. These experiences generally fall into two categories. The first of these are the so-called peak experiences, what we think of as transcendent moments, when we attain a state of being that we associate with monks and mystics, compared to those highly spiritual events. The others may be more mundane, ordinary, and prosaic. Prosaic? I think that's what that word is. But that doesn't mean that they're any less important. Those ordinary moments happen to me many times, although not as often as I would like, while in the process of writing this book. When I first sit down to write, I often have many other things on my mind. My busy travel schedule, my patient, my kids, my staff, how hungry, sleepy, happy I am. On good days, when the words seem to flow out of me, it is though my hands and my keyboard are an extension of my mind. I felt like that right in my first sci-fi book. I'm not consciously aware of my fingers moving or my back resting against the chair. The trees swaying in the breeze outside my office disappear. That bit of stiffness in my neck no longer nudges for my attention, and I am completely focused and absorbed by the words on my computer screen. At some point, I realized that an hour or more has gone by in what seemed like an instant. That happens when I'm also scrolling too on social media. I just be in the flow. We have to create our algorithms. Before I go to the next paragraph, we program our algorithms, people. What you like on social media is going to show you more of. So if you're liking more educational things, more things that have to deal with spirituality, with building yourself up mentally, supporting healthy mentality, supporting healthy physical body, supporting your spiritual journey and the health of that. If you are clicking on things, or if you're liking and commenting on posts to those subject matters, the algorithm will show you more and more of that. But if you liking ratchet stuff, and I ain't judging you if you like ratchet stuff, you're going to see more and more ratchetness. And you're going to think that that's really what's going on. But that is only what's going on in some people's lives. And it doesn't have to go on in your life unless that's something that you like. If that's something that you like, hey, do you, boo? I ain't mad at you. Your life is your life. But I know for me, I like the peace. I like the growth. I like the inspiration. I appreciate the inspiration. I appreciate the clarity. I appreciate evolving mentally, physically, and spiritually. I appreciate these things. So I love to see people and posts on my social media that are encouraging and supporting these things within me. So that's just a little, a little sprinkle, some little sprinkle of some good stuff for you. Let it settle in, let it settle in, let it settle in. Marinate. Tasty tidbits. Back to the book. This kind of thing has likely happened to you. Perhaps while you're driving, scrolling on social media, watching a movie, enjoying a dinner with good company, reading, knitting, practicing piano, or simply sitting in a quiet spot in nature. I don't know about you, but I often feel amazingly refreshed after experiencing one of those moments when my environment, my body, and time seem to disappear. They don't always happen when I'm writing, but after completing my second book, I find out they occur with greater frequency. With practice, I've been able to take control so that these experiences of being in the flow are not as accidental or serendipitous as they were at first. Overcoming the big three to facilitate the occurrence of such moments is essential for losing your mind and creating a new one. And you're going to have to create a new mind to have a new reality. Hey, Professor Wale, you have jumped in. I don't know if he's still there. Professor Wale has jumped in on my live. Interesting. I just finished up. This is the book that we're reading from. You can catch all my replays on YouTube. And we're now, next week for Soulful Sunday, we're going to be here. Survival versus creation. Good one. Good one. So, I'm grateful that chapter was not as long. Because I'm ready to get my snack on, get this PowerPoint together, and get ready for tomorrow where I will be going outside in the cold weather. But I don't want to stay outside in the cold weather. I'm not going to be like outside in the cold weather. I'm just going to be like going from my residence to the car. And from the car to my school. That's it. But I like warm weather. But I appreciate the different seasons. And I appreciate you tuning into the SupaTea Podcast Show. Please stay tuned. Please do the work that you got to do for yourself. Get this book, work on it, or just utilize these videos to inspire you in the direction that works best for you, being your best version of you. So again, thank you for tuning in to the SupaTea Podcast Show. It is my honor to be of service on this platform, my platform, the SupaTea Podcast Show. And I'm going to now sign off. So thank you once again. You can always catch the replay on YouTube. So be aware of that. Typically takes about, I'd say 3 business days